The sound of metal tearing filled the air as the ship broke apart in the sky. Serena gripped her seat as the emergency lights blinked red, the control panels sparking and the ship shaking violently. She had no time to think, no time to scream. The only thought in her head was one word: crash. When the impact came, it was like being hit by a mountain. Everything turned black. She woke up hours later, face down in red sand. Her helmet was cracked, oxygen levels low. Her ship was a burning wreck behind her, broken into pieces across the desert land. Serena pulled herself to her feet, dizzy and hurt. Her leg was bleeding and her suit torn, but she was alive. That was something. She looked around the endless desert. 2 suns burned in the sky above, casting long shadows across the rocky hills. It was hot, dry, and silent. No wind, no animals, no voices, just the sound of crackling fire from the wreckage. She limped back to the ship, hoping someone else had survived. Bodies, burnt and broken, lay near the escape pods. Her heart sank. But then she heard a low growl. Turning quickly, she raised the emergency flare in her hand. A tall figure stepped out from behind the ship. It was not human. The creature stood over 7 feet tall, skin dark blue like the night sky. Its eyes glowed faintly, armor cracked, one arm hanging limply. Serena froze, breathing hard, ready to fight if needed. But the alien didn't attack. It just looked at her, its expression hard to read. Then it collapsed in the sand with a heavy thud. She stood there for a moment, unsure what to do. This alien could be dangerous, a threat. Maybe it was the reason for the crash, but it was injured, just like her. Serena slowly walked over and knelt beside it. Its breathing was weak. She checked its chest. There was a deep wound, dark fluid oozing out. Her training kicked in. She grabbed her emergency med kit and cleaned the wound, wrapping it tightly with the last of her gauze. The alien groaned, then opened one eye, looking straight at her. She didn't know what it was saying, but the way it looked at her felt thankful. Hours passed, night came quickly, and the desert turned cold. Serena dragged both herself and the alien to a broken cargo pod. It offered some cover from the wind. She wrapped herself in foil insulation, shivering. The alien lay silent, breathing steady but slow. In the darkness, she spoke quietly to herself, hoping the stars would hear. What is this place? Where are we? Is help coming? No answer came. Only the soft sounds of the alien breathing beside her. When morning came, she woke to the sound of movement. The alien was awake, sitting up, watching her. It tried to stand but stumbled. She reached out to help, and for a moment, their hands touched. It was a strange feeling, warm and strong. Serena pulled her hand back, unsure. The alien pointed to its chest, then to her, and then to the distant mountains. It wanted to move, to find something, maybe shelter. She nodded slowly. Okay, but if we go together. The alien nodded once. Together, they packed what little supplies they had: water, emergency food, and a flare gun. The suns rose higher, making the sand burn beneath their feet. They began walking, one human and one alien, limping across the silent world. Neither of them knew if help was coming, or if they would survive. But somehow, they had already made a choice to trust each other. And far away, hidden in the rocks, something else watched them move, eyes in the shadows, silent and waiting. The planet was not as empty as it seemed. Asterisk. The desert stretched far and wide, as if the planet had swallowed everything in endless sand. Serena walked slowly, each step harder than the last. Her leg was still hurting, and her water bottle was almost empty. Beside her, the alien moved silently, its long legs taking stronger steps, but he looked weak too. The bandage she had wrapped on his side was already stained with dark liquid. They hadn't spoken a word, not because they didn't want to, but because they didn't know how. Still, in small ways, they were beginning to understand each other. When Serena tripped on a rock and fell, the alien was quick to help. He held out his hand, lifting her with surprising gentleness. She nodded in thanks, and he gave a soft grunt in return. they continued. Walking toward the mountains, where the land looked rough and rocky. There, they hoped to find caves or water, something more than this burning wasteland. The sun was cruel, burning their skin. Serena's lips were dry and cracked. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. Kale, she had named the alien Kale in her mind, suddenly stopped. He raised a hand, signaling her to stay still. She froze, eyes scanning the sand. At first, she saw nothing, but then she felt it. A deep rumble beneath her boots. The sand shifted like water. Something was coming from below. Kale grabbed her arm and pulled her back just in time as a massive creature exploded from the ground. It looked like a giant worm with sharp fins and a circular mouth full of teeth. Serena screamed, stumbling backward. Kale roared, stepping in front of her. The creature lunged, but Kale was faster. He threw a small metal object from his belt, something that exploded with a loud bang and smoke. The worm-like thing hissed and dove back into the sand, disappearing as fast as it came. Serena's heart was racing. "What the hell was that?" she whispered, not expecting an answer. Kale turned to her, touched his chest, then pointed to the ground and made a wide circle with his hands. His message was clear. This land was dangerous. They couldn't stay on the sand for long. They ran or limped as fast as they could toward the rocks. By nightfall, they reached a cliff wall. The rocks were rough and jagged, but better than open ground. Kale found a small cave, half hidden behind a curtain of vines. It smelled damp and earthy, but it was safe. They crawled inside and collapsed. Serena leaned against the wall, too tired to speak. Kale sat opposite her, breathing heavily. He took off a small pouch tied to his waist and held it out to her. Inside were dried alien fruits, green, sticky, but edible. Serena hesitated, then took one and bit it. It tasted strange but sweet. She nodded in thanks again. Kale made a small clicking sound in his throat, like a soft laugh. Inside the cave, the air was cooler. She felt her body relax for the first time since the crash. After eating, Kale pulled out a strange tool and started drawing in the dirt. He made shaped circles, stars, a symbol that looked like their crashed ship. Then he pointed to the stars above, visible through a crack in the cave wall. He was trying to explain something. Serena joined in, drawing her own ship, then a line to the planet, then a question mark. Kale pointed at the sky, then made an explosion motion with his hands. Her heart sank. Was he saying? There was no signal, no help coming. They were truly stranded. For a long time they sat in silence, listening to the wind outside the cave. Serena looked at Kale, his body tired, but his eyes still alert. He had saved her more than once, and now she wasn't just surviving, she was surviving with him. She reached into her pack, pulled out a silver space blanket, and held it toward him. He took it slowly and draped it around both of them. That night, for the first time, they shared warmth in the cold alien world. The stars above them blinked, as if watching silently. But deep underground, the sand stirred again. Something else was waking up, and it was hungry. Serena woke with a start, her heart pounding. The night was quiet but not peaceful. A strange sound echoed in the distance, like rocks grinding against each other. She sat up inside the cave, blinking in the dim light. Kale was already awake. Crouched near the entrance, he held a sharp metal shard from the wreck, his muscles tense. He looked back at her and placed one finger over his lips. The meaning was clear: stay quiet, outside. Something was moving in the darkness, not the sand. Worm from before. The sound was slower, heavier, like something walking with weight. Serena held her breath, crawling beside Kale. They peeked out together. At first, she saw nothing. Just sand, rocks, and a few glowing plants under the twin moons. Then it moved. A creature the size of a car, walking on 4 thick legs. Its skin looked like cracked stone. Its face had no eyes, just a wide mouth and 2 sharp horns pointing upward. It sniffed the air, then dragged its claws along the rocks near their cave. Serena's hands trembled. If it came any closer, it might smell them, or worse, break the rocks and get inside. But Kale leaned closer to her and whispered a low, strange sound in his language. He pressed a finger to her chest, then pointed to the back wall of the cave. She understood. They had to move deeper. Carefully and silently, they crawled backward, deeper into the narrow passage behind them. The space got tighter, darker. The air smelled like old stone and something strange. The creature outside let out a low growl, like it was frustrated. It clawed at the vines covering the entrance, but didn't find them. Eventually, the sound faded, and the creature walked away, its heavy steps vanishing into the night. Serena let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Kale turned toward her, eyes focused. He pointed deeper into the cave. "Why?" she whispered. But he had already started crawling forward. She followed, curious and nervous. After a few minutes, they entered a larger chamber. Hidden inside was something unexpected. A massive stone wall, covered in strange glowing symbols. It looked old, very old, like it had been there for hundreds of years. Kale approached it slowly, touching the wall with respect. His eyes widened as he traced a few of the carvings with his fingers. Serena watched, confused. "What is this place?" she asked. Kale pointed to one of the carvings. It showed a figure like him, standing next to a smaller figure, possibly human. They were standing before a rising sun. A memory? A prophecy? A warning? She didn't know, but Kale seemed emotional. He bowed slightly before the wall, then turned back to her and touched his chest. Maybe this place had meaning for his people. Serena stepped closer, running her fingers along the stone. The symbols pulsed faintly under her touch, like they were alive. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. Not like a beast was coming, but like something ancient was waking up. Kale grabbed her wrist and pulled her back toward the tunnel. Behind them, one of the glowing symbols cracked, letting out a soft hissing sound. "We shouldn't stay here," Serena whispered. They exited the chamber quickly and returned to the cave entrance. The night air was cold, but safer than what lay behind those walls. Serena looked at Kale. "What was that place?" Kale looked at her for a long moment, then drew a symbol in the dirt, a circle with 3 lines crossing through it. She didn't understand it completely, but somehow she felt it meant warning. That night, they didn't sleep. They sat side by side, watching the stars and listening to the silence. But the silence was not empty anymore. It was full of secrets, and below their feet, something ancient had stirred. The planet was not just wild, it was haunted. And the more they explored it, the more Serena began to feel that this was not an accident. They weren't just stranded here. They were brought here for a reason. Asterisk. The sky turned red by morning. Serena stepped outside the cave, blinking at the strange color in the air. Ash was falling like snow, soft gray flakes landing on her suit. Her heart skipped. Something wasn't right. Behind her, Kale stepped out and stared at the sky. His jaw tightened. He muttered something in his language, low and serious. "What is it?" Serena asked. Watching the glowing horizon, Kale bent down, drew a jagged line in the sand, then a circle with sharp points around it. She understood only one thing: danger. The air grew hotter by the minute. Winds picked up, blowing ash into their faces. Then came the sound, a low humming, followed by a deep rumble like the growl of the planet itself. Kale grabbed Serena's hand and pulled her back into the cave. He moved quickly, grabbing gear, tying their few supplies to his back. He pointed deeper into the cave system. Serena hesitated. "You want to go back into that place with those symbols?" Kale nodded firmly. Outside, the wind howled. Ash turned black, falling thicker now, like burning snow. The ground trembled again. She followed him, deeper and deeper, past the glowing wall they had found earlier, and into new tunnels lit only by Kale's soft lantern. The deeper they went, the more Serena noticed something strange: pipes along the walls, metal panels half buried in stone. "This isn't just a cave," she whispered. "It's part of something built." Kale stopped at a doorway, ancient and heavy with effort. He pried it open, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside was a sealed shelter, clearly made by intelligent beings. The walls were metal, the floor smooth. There were broken machines and long-dead lights. But it was dry, cool, and safe. Cale dropped their supplies and sat down. Exhausted, Serena followed slowly, looking around in awe. How old is this place? Cale tapped a symbol on the wall, a circle with a burning star above it. She looked closer, realizing something. That's the same symbol from your armor. He nodded. This place belonged to his people. Suddenly, the door behind them slammed shut from the wind. Dust shook from the ceiling. The storm outside had reached full strength. They were trapped but safe for now. Hours passed. They lit a small flame with a survival tool, just enough to see. Serena sat close to Cale, feeling the heat from his body. They shared the last of the alien fruit and dry protein bars. In the flickering light, she looked at him closely for the first time. His face was scarred. Jaws strong, eyes intelligent, not just wild. He had protected her without question, carried her when she was weak, fed her when she was starving. She reached out and touched his hand gently. Cale looked down at her fingers, then at her face. He didn't pull away. They didn't need words. Outside, the storm raged with fire and thunder. Inside, something else was building. Trust, warmth, something human, something alien. Serena rested her head on his shoulder. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. Later that night, as they rested in the shelter, a new tremor shook the ground. But it didn't come from the storm. It came from below, deep under the cave floor. Cale stood quickly, his hand on the wall. The tremor came again, stronger. Serena looked at him. Another creature. Cale didn't answer. He walked to the far corner of the shelter and pressed on a panel hidden in the wall. A hidden door slid open with a creak, revealing stairs that led even deeper. He turned to her with a serious look. Serena nodded slowly. You think the answers are down there? Cale nodded once. She grabbed her pack, slung it over her shoulder, and stepped beside him. Together, they began to descend into the unknown. Behind them, the metal door closed again. Ahead only darkness, and in that darkness secrets waited, not just about the planet, but about why they were brought here and what was growing between them. Something impossible, something real. The stairs creaked beneath their feet. Each step down into the unknown felt colder, darker, more ancient. Serena held a small light in one hand. Cale walked ahead with a sharpened tool in his. The air grew thick with dust, and a strange hum seemed to echo from the stone walls. The tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Serena stopped in awe. The space was larger than a cathedral, with giant stone pillars stretching to a ceiling lost in darkness. But it wasn't just a cave. It was a structure, clearly built with care, with purpose. In the center stood a glowing crystal embedded into the floor, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Cale walked toward it slowly, almost with reverence. His face looked different, calm, but heavy. Serena followed, her voice quiet. What is this place? Cale didn't answer. Instead, he knelt beside the crystal and placed both hands on it. The moment he touched it, the entire chamber lit up. Lines of light ran through the floor and walls, spreading out like a living circuit. Then the walls began to shift. Holograms flickered to life, floating images of Cale's people, stars, ships, planets, and something else, something that looked like Earth. Serena stepped back in shock. How do you know about my world? The images changed, showing a star chart, two paths crossing, one line red, one blue. Then a ship crashing into a planet. Her breath caught in her chest. Was this crash planned? She whispered. Cale stood slowly, his face filled with something new, guilt. He pointed to the blue path, then to himself, then to the red one, and then to her. Serena's voice trembled. You were being watched. We were both targets. Cale looked down, not denying it. She stepped away, anger rising in her chest. Why bring me here? He stepped forward, touched her arm, then placed his hand gently over his heart. He shook his head, trying to say no, It wasn't him. But the message was clear. Someone had brought them together, not by accident. The crystal pulsed again, and a new image appeared. A figure female. Alien, glowing with light, standing with a child. The child looked part human. Serena's knees weakened. Is this a future? Cale's eyes locked on hers. He stepped closer. Unsure, hesitant, the image faded. The chamber went dark again, only the crystal remained lit. Serena turned away, sitting on a stone bench. At the edge of the room, her mind raced. She had come here as a pilot, a survivor. Now, she didn't know what she was anymore. She felt Cale sit beside her, but he said nothing. After a long silence, she spoke. You saved me, you protected me, but I need to know something. She turned to face him, her voice soft. Is it real? What's happening between us? Cale stared at her for a moment, then reached up and removed the piece of armor covering his chest. Beneath it, his skin glowed faintly, and there, etched over his heart, was the same star symbol she had seen in the vision. He reached out, gently placing her hand over it. His heart beat strong beneath her palm. She didn't pull away. Whatever force had brought them here, it wasn't just about survival anymore. Something was growing between them, something stronger than fear. Suddenly, the crystal flared bright, and a sound echoed through the chamber, a voice. Not human, not alien, but something in between. It said only one word, in a language neither of them knew, but somehow, they both understood it. Chosen. They stood together, hand in hand behind them. A new door opened at the far end of the chamber. The path forward was calling. Serena looked at Cale and nodded. Let's find out the truth. Cale squeezed her hand gently together. They stepped into the unknown again. But this time, they weren't just survivors. They were part of something much bigger, something written in the stars, and perhaps in their blood. Asterisk. The new door led them into a glowing tunnel. Walls made of crystal shimmered with soft blue light. Serena felt warmth radiating from them, like sunlight trapped in glass. Cale moved carefully, but his eyes stayed on her more than the path. He was watching her closely now, like he was afraid she might break or leave. Serena didn't speak. Her thoughts spun in circles. Visions of children, of stars, of being chosen. She didn't ask for this. She didn't want destiny. She just wanted answers, but her body told her something else. She had felt strange ever since she touched that glowing crystal. A warmth in her chest, a flutter in her stomach. It wasn't fear, it was something growing. The tunnel ended at another wide chamber. This one was different, softer, quieter. It looked like a sanctuary. Plants grew along the walls. Glowing flowers bloomed without soil, and in the middle stood a pool of clear liquid, like water but thicker. Cale stepped forward, dipped his fingers into it, then drank. Serena hesitated, then knelt beside him. The water was warm. It tasted like honey and spice. She could feel strength returning to her body. Cale looked at her and smiled, not with his mouth, but with his eyes. Serena finally spoke. What do you know that I don't? Cale looked down, then pressed two fingers to his own chest and pointed to her stomach. Her eyes widened. You mean me? Something is inside me. Cale didn't move. He didn't need to. She already knew. Her hands moved to her belly, where a quiet warmth now pulsed. It didn't feel wrong. It didn't feel forced. It felt alive. A tear slid down her cheek. How? Cale sat beside her, touching her shoulder gently. In that touch was understanding, apology, wonder. She whispered. We didn't even, then stopped herself. It had not been physical yet, but whatever this bond was, it ran deeper than biology. The chamber walls flickered again with images. DN, a strands twisting together, a growing embryo, a new species forming. Serena stared at the images, her voice shaking. This isn't just about us. This is about creating something new. Cale nodded slowly. She stood, trying to breathe. They brought us here, not to survive, but to start over. The words felt heavy, yet honest. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from realization. She turned to him. I should be angry. I should run away from you. But she didn't. Instead, she walked to him and held out her hand. "We do this together, right?" Cale took her hand, strong and warm. Then he placed her palm over his own chest. She could feel his heartbeat, steady and sure. Suddenly, the entire chamber began to change. The walls dissolved like mist, revealing a view outside the mountain. The storm had passed. The air was clean again. Sky glowing with stars, and now a ship hovered in the distance. But not human, and not Cale's. It was something in between. A bridge between worlds. Cale and Serena stepped toward the exit, side by side. Serena looked up at the sky. "Are we going home?" Cale paused, then pointed to her heart and said his first word in broken English. "Here." Serena blinked in surprise. Her lips trembled. "Here is home," he nodded. She touched her belly again. Her child, their child, was the future of two races. Born not from war, not from fear, but from survival, kindness, and something far more powerful, hope. As they walked toward the ship, the stars above blinked, not watching, but waiting. The strange ship opened its doors without a sound. Serena and Cale stood still at the edge of the cliff, watching it float in silence. It was shaped like a leaf, silver and glowing, smooth with no engines, no weapons, just peace. As they stepped closer, a soft light poured from inside, bathing them in warmth. Serena took Cale's hand and held it tight. She wasn't afraid anymore. Inside, the ship felt alive. No buttons, no controls, just a wide-open space that adjusted to their steps. Walls lit up as they passed, showing memories, echoes of other lives, other stories. Cale placed his hand on one of the walls. It reacted, instantly flashing images of stars, galaxies, and a seed falling into soil. Serena watched as another image formed her, holding a child with Cale's eyes and her smile. Her breath caught in her throat. Cale turned to her, his expression soft. He touched her stomach gently, where a new life now rested. Serena smiled, tears forming in her eyes. They sat together as the ship began to move, not with noise, not with speed, but like a dream sliding through space. Below them, the desert planet shrank slowly, not destroyed, not forgotten, but now empty of purpose. Its job was complete. The ship took them to a quiet corner of the galaxy, where no war had reached, where stars still sang softly in the dark. A new world appeared in the distance, blue and green, untouched. The ship circled. It then slowly descended. Serena and Cale stepped out onto soil that smelled like rain. The trees were tall and silver, the sky deep purple. There were no cities, no roads, just space to grow, space to begin. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Cale built a shelter using alien roots and stone. Serena gathered food from glowing plants and soft fruits. They taught each other words, ideas, laughs, and slowly, they built a home. One night, under the light of twin moons, Serena clutched her belly. The time had come. Cale stayed beside her, holding her hand through the pain. Hours passed like days. But at last, a new cry filled the air. A child was born. Skin soft and golden, eyes bright silver, hair like strands of starfire. Not human, not alien, something new. Serena held her baby close, whispering, "You were meant to be." Cale wrapped his arms around them both. For a long time they sat in silence, just breathing, just holding. Above them, the stars shimmered, and in one corner of the sky, a new star blinked into life. Not just a star, a symbol, a beginning, a memory. And far across the galaxy, hidden watchers, creatures who had once guided their path, smiled in the shadows. The experiment had worked, not through control, not through force, but through trust, through love. Serena looked down at her child and whispered, "One day, you'll walk among both our people, and you'll remind them what we forgot. That peace is possible, that unity is real, that we're not so different." Cale leaned close and gently touched the baby's tiny fingers. The child reached back, wrapping her hand around his, and in that quiet moment, beneath the sky full of stars, a new future began, not just for them, but for everyone.